You are 60 years old. You log in any quiet morning and you look at your pension balance, and there it is, a six-figure number. It sits on the screen, glowing, and for one warm moment, it feels like a fortune. It feels like you made it. But in 2026, that number is a mathematical illusion, because the balance you're staring at isn't measuring your wealth, it's measuring the distance between where you are and where you actually need to be. And today, we're going to hold up the mirror and reveal the single most uncomfortable number in British retirement, the shocking gap between the average pension pot and the real price of a life without financial friction. Take a breath. This one stings. Let's start with the need, because almost everyone gets it wrong. The Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association, the people who actually model these things, publish what a real retirement costs. And for 2026, the inflation-adjusted figure for a comfortable retirement lands at roughly £45,000 a year for a single person. Now, before you picture yachts and villas, stop. £45,000 a year isn't luxury. It doesn't buy you extravagance. It buys you something far quieter and far more valuable: the ability to live without doing the math. It's filling the trolley at the supermarket without checking the price of every item. It's replacing the car when it dies, not when you've finally saved up. It's saying yes to your grandchildren without a spreadsheet running in the back of your mind. That's comfortable. And below it sits, modest, roughly £18,000 a year. That isn't comfort. That's careful. A life measured in small compromises. So hold that number in your head. Comfortable, £45,000. Now let's see what the average Briton has actually built to pay for it. Here's the truth: the industry doesn't advertise. Building a pension is like building a bridge. On one side is the shore, your working life. On the far side is a peaceful island, retirement. And for 30, 40 years, you lay down one plank at a time, brick by brick, trying to reach that island. Most Britons arrive at 60, with a bridge that looks genuinely impressive from the shore. The Office for National Statistics tells us the median private pension pot for those aged 55 to 64 is roughly £120,000. £120,000. Say it out loud. It sounds like an achievement. It sounds like enough. But here's the cruelty of it. When you finally step onto that bridge and start to cross, you realize it only goes halfway across the ocean. You walk to the edge and you look down, and there's nothing beneath you but water. Because to fund that comfortable life, you need a private pot of roughly £800,000. And the bridge the average person builds hasn't even reached the first support pillar, the pillar that stands at £300,000. They're £120,000 out onto a span that needs to reach £800,000. That chasm between the plank you're standing on and the island you were promised is the shocking gap. So how do we land on £800,000? It's a rule of thumb the professionals lean on, the 4% rule. The idea is that you can safely draw about 4% from your pot each year without draining it dry. Now, remember, you need £45,000 a year to be comfortable, and the state pension eventually covers £13,000 of that. So your private pot has to throw off the remaining £32,000 year after year on its own. And to generate £32,000 a year at 4%, you need a pot of roughly £800,000. That's not a scary story, that's just arithmetic. But wait, you say, what about the state pension? Surely that catches me. Let's talk about the scaffolding. The full new state pension in 2026 is worth roughly £13,000 a year, and thanks to the triple lock, it does keep rising. But here's what nobody tells you at 60. The state pension is scaffolding. It's the thin metal frame bolted to the side of your unfinished bridge. It stops you from hitting the ground, but you can't live inside it. It's too thin, and it's too cold. Nobody builds a home on scaffolding. And there are two twists in the wire. First, it doesn't even arrive when you retire. You stop working at 60. But the state pension doesn't pay out until 67. That's a 7-year gap where the scaffolding isn't there at all. 7 years where you're funding your entire life, every bill, every weekly shop, every tank of petrol, from your own pot alone. Second, even once it arrives, £13,000 is a long, long way from 45. The scaffolding never becomes the bridge. Let me show you why this gap is so dangerous. From the cockpit, think of your working life as powered flight. The engine is roaring. That's your salary, your national insurance contributions, money flowing in every single month. And at 60, you make the decision every pilot eventually makes. You reach for the throttle and you turn the engine off. From that moment, you're gliding. The runway, the point where your money finally has to last, is 30 years away. 30 years of retirement to stay in the air. And the only thing keeping you aloft now is lift. Your compounding pot, the altitude you built while the engine was still running. If your lift is £800,000, you glide. Smooth, controlled, a gentle descent, wheels kissing the tarmac right on schedule. But if your lift is only £120,000, you're not gliding, you're in a stall, the nose drops, and you start losing altitude, your quality of life, far, far faster than the years you've got left to stay airborne. The ground comes up to meet you long before the runway does. And here's the passenger you didn't know you were carrying. Every bridge in Britain has an invisible passenger walking across it beside you. And that passenger is HMRC. They travel under a quiet name, Fiscal Drag. Here's how it works. Your personal allowance, the amount you can earn before tax, has been frozen. It isn't rising with inflation. So, as your pension income creeps upward, just to keep pace with the cost of living, more and more of it crosses the tax threshold. You didn't get richer. The line simply stopped moving. It doesn't matter whether you're in the home counties or a market town up north. The frozen threshold catches everyone the same way. We call it the success tax. You're punished for the very growth you desperately need. HMRC is quietly siphoning off the timber you were counting on to finish your bridge, and most people never even see it happening. So let's sit with what this actually feels like. It's the start of the financial month. The pension payment lands, and within days, it's gone, swallowed by the standing charges, the council tax, the shop that costs more than it did last time, and slowly, a horrible realization sets in. What you're holding isn't a passport to freedom, it's a subscription to survival. A monthly renewal on just getting by. You're not living off your life's work, you're renting your own retirement, one anxious month at a time. Now, at 60, HMRC dangles something shiny in front of you, the 25% tax-free lump sum. You can pull a quarter of your pot out, completely tax-free, right now. And the temptation is overwhelming. I'll clear the mortgage, you think. I'll finally be debt-free. Stop, please, stop. Pulling that lump sum out of an already unfinished bridge is like removing the foundation stones just as the storm starts blowing. Yes, the mortgage disappears. But so does the compounding engine that was quietly widening your bridge every single year. You've swapped decades of growth for one moment of relief, and you've done it at the exact moment you can least afford to lose the timber. So, what do you actually do? You take the controls off autopilot. Most people spend their entire careers in the default fund, the setting the pension company chose for you on the day you signed up, and you never touched it again. That's autopilot. And for these final, precious 7 years before the state pension arrives, autopilot isn't good enough. This is the manual override. Move 1. Salary, sacrifice. In these last working years, you funnel as much of your salary as you can straight into your pension before the taxman ever sees it. You don't just save the income tax, you dodge the NI, the national insurance, too. Every pound sacrificed is a pound that widens the bridge instead of feeding the invisible passenger. Move 2. Active tax shielding. Look hard at a SIP, a self-invested personal pension, where you, not a default setting, decide where the money actually works. And plan your drawdown deliberately, pulling your income out in a way that keeps you under those frozen thresholds rather than tripping straight over them. 7 years isn't enough time to build a whole new bridge, but it's absolutely enough time to widen the one you've already got and to stop the passenger stealing your timber. So here's the truth we opened with, now that you can finally see the water. Wealth in Britain is no longer about reaching a certain age. 60 is just a number, it guarantees nothing. Real wealth is about reaching a certain mathematical resilience, the point where the numbers simply work, quietly, without you having to watch them. True freedom isn't a birthday. It's the moment your bridge finally touches the far shore and you step onto solid ground, and you realize you never, ever have to look down at the water again. The average pot builds half a bridge. The only question that matters now is what you do with the 7 years you've got left to build the rest. If this video helped, like and hit subscribe. See you in the next one.